business community, and it will entice people to come here to shop and dine and play and even live here. And that's really what we want. We want to inspire people to come here and live and form a nice tax space.
And Bonnie, I'm gonna ask you to start wrapping it up, and don't worry, you're gonna get your time with the committee, and we'll be delving into a lot of the details.
Okay, I have about 20 of those letters signed, but it's just me going into businesses. So, you know, if I have a little posse, I'd be able to get more things done. But right now, it's just me. And in addition, I've looked up benches, because benches are something that we need for the phase 1 of the park, and they're all under $150. I've looked up trash receptacles, and they go from $170 to $46 to one that costs $1,464, and I know there's no mistake.
And Bonnie, we're gonna get into all these details with the committee, but I really want to applaud Bonnie for really leading the dogfight on this, but and really, honestly, you know, just you are relentless, Bonnie, and we're gonna see this happen. So thank you for updating the council, but we'll schedule a general services committee meeting. We'll have a couple department heads there, and we'll get this rolling and take it to the next step.
Okay.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Thank you.
Next, we have Anto, and Anto is going to just brief the council on our friendship study. So Anto, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you.
On behalf of the Armenian community of Troy, New York, the Armenian Youth Federation and the Armenian National Committee, I'd like to thank the council chairman, Carmelo Mantello, and the city council members for considering a proclamation that would create a bond between the city of Troy, New York and the city of Martakit, Artsakh. Martakit is a historically important town for Armenians in Martakit province and part of the Armenian homeland for millennia. Martakit is the administrative capital of the Martakit province in the Republic of Artsakh. Martakit has a population of just under 5,000. The town, an ethnic Armenian majority population, also had an Armenian majority in 1989. The population mainly works in different state institutions as well as with agriculture. As of 2015, Martakit has a municipal building, a house of culture, 2 schools, 2 kindergartens, a youth center, 88 commercial enterprises, 2 factories, and a regional hospital. Over the past 35 years, Martakit and the surrounding districts have seen very heavy fighting between the country of Armenia and Artsakh and Azerbaijan. But the population is resilient and determined to stay in their ancestral lands. The importance of friendship city between Troy and Martakit is mutually beneficial. The thought would be for Martakit and Troy to develop the cooperation in economic development, trade, culture, and education. The friendship cities could also be a way of ceremonial relationships and form municipalities. The cities can understand and learn about historical ceremonies and share in these experiences. These relationships will foster global cooperation and communication at the municipal level and will benefit participating cities. The local school districts could also benefit from the relationship to allow for students to form pen-pal relationships across the globe. Teachers can communicate and choose to host web classes so that the students can benefit and learn about different classroom settings. So we thank the city of Troy, New York for considering the city of Martakit, Artsakh as a friendship city and hope that this resolution is passed and approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Anto. Real quick, do you want to introduce the folks that are here with us?
So among us today, we have members of our youth organization, Armenian Youth Organization, who are based out of Troy, New York. We also have members that reside in Troy, New York, as well as members of the Armenian National Committee and members of the Holy Cross Armenian Church that is located on Spring Avenue in Troy.
Thank you so much, Anto. Before you leave, if council members have any questions, I mean, this doesn't tie the council in terms of anything mandatory. The city, I should say, but what this will do is build relationships.
Absolutely. There's nothing mandatory on this. It's more about the relationship and avenues that the city can have to other cities outside of our country that can both learn from each other, whether it's economically, culturally, and so on and so forth.
And I like the idea of getting school districts involved also.
Yes, we think is a very important part of this resolution so that students can experience what other parts of the world are like as far as school settings and education, and kind of get a glimpse of how it's not always sunshine like it is in our school districts, where you have the freedom and independence and the comfort to go to school and not worry about bombardment or anything of that sort because you're on a border city. So I think it teaches our students that there's a lot going on around the world and that we need to be aware of and not just be shelled within our city.
It's interesting. I didn't think of it that way. Thank you. Did council members have any questions regarding the resolution or anything? Okay,
Thank you so much.
Anto, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to address any item on the agenda? Okay, we're going to close the first public forum and we'll dive right into the legislation. Maria, let's get ordinance 40 now.
Ordinance 49, ordinance amending the 2023 general fund and garbage fund budgets, Council President Mantella, at the request of the administration.
Is there a motion? So motion, Councilmember Steele, is there a second? Second, Councilmember Gully. Just for folks' knowledge, we did have a finance meeting where we actually discussed much of the items this evening. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
6 ayes, 0 noes, ordinance 49 passes.
Ordinance 50, which was just passed this evening at 5 minutes.
Ordinance 50, ordinance amending the 2023 general fund and debt service fund budgets, Council President Mantella, at the request of the administration.
Is there a motion? So motion, Councilmember Steele, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Soriento, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
6 ayes, 0 noes, ordinance 50 passes.
Resolution 60.
Resolution 60, resolution appointing Alyssa
McClanahan.
McClellan to the Board of Assessment Review of the City of Troy, Council President Mantella, at the request of the administration.
Is there a motion? Motion, Councilmember Steele, is there a second? Second, Councilmember Gully, and Alyssa is Lori Schindler's granddaughter, so great addition, Schindler Realty, very wonderful firm here in the city of Troy for many years. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
6 ayes, 0 noes, resolution 60 passes.
Resolution 61.
Resolution 61, resolution confirming an appointment to the Troy Industrial Development Authority, Troy IDA, Council President Mantella, at the request of the administration.
Is there a motion? So moved. Motion, Councilmember Steele, is there a second? Second. Second, Councilmember Mann, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
6 ayes, 0 noes, resolution 61 passes.
Resolution 62, please take off at the request of the administration. That was a typo. Resolution 62.
Resolution 62, resolution authorizing a friendship city relationship between the city of Troy, New York, and the city/town of Martukat in the Republic of
Artsakh.
Artsakh. Council President Mantella.
Is there a motion? Motion, Councilmember Soriento, is there a second? Second, Councilmember Gully, I just want to once again thank Kanto, the youth organization, and all the folks from the Armenian community. I think this is a great resolution and hopefully build greater relationships, friendships, but more importantly, what you discussed, learning about other, municipalities outside of the United States and folks who are really seeing tough times. Thank you so much for bringing this to our attention. Thank you. Further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
6 ayes, 5 ayes, 1 no, resolution 62 passes.
Resolution 64.
Resolution 64, resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Capital District Transportation Authority regarding infrastructure, cost sharing, and project implementation for construction of the Liberty Square Mobility Hub. Council President Mantel at the request of the administration.
Is there a motion? Motion, Councilmember Steele. Is there a second? Second, Councilmember Conley Wilson. Discussion. I think we're all super excited about what is transforming in Little Italy, and this is another piece of the pie. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
6 ayes, 0 no's, resolution 64 passes.
Okay, we'll open it up now to the second public forum. Would anyone like to approach the council, address the council? Anything happening in your neighborhood, your streets, we're here. Would anyone like to speak? Hi there. Take your name, and you don't need a specific address, but whereabouts you live, that would be great. Thank you.
My name is Mark.
You can pull it right out. Yeah.
My name is Mark. My journey here in Troy started about 2 years ago. I live in Harbor Point Garden, which is where got evacuated. This is my first time being here in a city council meeting.
Welcome.
Thank you. I was very optimistic to move into Harbor Point Gardens. It seemed like a very optimistic apartment complex to move into, especially hearing all the stuff about the previous owners. So it seemed like the new owners were a sunshine on a few rainy days. So I was very prospective to move into here, and seeing that I moved in on the 1st of June and not 20 days later, I had to get evacuated. We've been holed up in a motel since then, and it's just been extremely frustrating to have to live in a motel, especially since none of the stories, none of the details have been consistent. One day we hear one story, a different tenant hears a different story. Nothing is lining up, and it's just extremely frustrating to not know when we're gonna go back home, if we're gonna go back home. And, you know, one day we're told, no, we're not expecting anybody to pay rent. The next day we're told, oh, no, you guys are gonna get a discount on rent. The next day I get a bill that's the full amount for me to pay rent. And then I'm told, oh, no, you pay full rent first, and then you'll get a discount after the fact. Make that make sense to me. How am I gonna pay rent for an apartment I haven't even been in? And now we don't even know what's happening. You would think that with something as urgent as this, there'd be more transparency to the tenants. The last update that we got was a week ago, and it wasn't even concise. It doesn't even make sense. And the more we talk to tenants, to different stories going on, you start to kind of hear that there's a lot of suspicious stuff going on at Harbor Point Gardens. Not to mention that the work being done at these apartments is a little more reckless than it is useful. We just found out last night that a wall fell in on one of the apartments, causing a massive hole in one of the tenants' apartments. Tell me what good that does to any of us. How can we trust them when it seems like there's no accountability, but yet they want us to pay full rent, and yet there's all of us here suffering, and we have no idea what's even going on. Last I heard, and here's the great part, you know, they're telling us that they're contacting us directly. I have not been contacted once by anybody. And we're just sitting here like ducks, just waiting for something to happen. We have the motel until next week. What are they gonna do after that? July 10th is fast approaching, 4 days. What's gonna happen to us? Because I feel it's unfair for me to have to pay rent. Not to mention, I paid my deposit in full for for June. And yet they're not talking about any sort of reparations. They're not talking about anything. All they want is for us to pay rent. It's extremely frustrating, and my story is one of the many. And living in a motel, again, I'm a young kid, I'm fine, I'll make it through, but there's older people living there, there's people with families stuck in one bedroom for an undisclosed amount of time. Like, it's not fair to any of us. And not to mention, we have to pay for 3 meals a day because our rooms don't have kitchens. My commute to work has doubled. I'm putting almost $20 in gas every single day. And yet there's no talks of who's gonna help us. There's no talks of what's gonna be done. There's no talks of accountability for the people that put us in this situation. I just want to see accountability. I want to see something good happen for all of us here that are struggling. And yet, you know, the city seems very fine, but I'd like to see some cohesion for us too, you know?
Thank you for coming this evening. A quick question, you did mention telling stories, is that the property owner, is it the tenants, is it both?
Most of the stories we've been telling, this just from us, it's the tenants, like everything that I hear is from, oh, Michael said this that one time, or Michael said this one time, and it's just that no one has a clear story of any actual like solutions.
And I must tell you, Michael was keeping me posted till about a week ago, 6 days. I texted him a couple times. He has not gotten back to me, which, you know, is very concerning because clearly the attorneys are involved now. And, you know, Eric sent me the pictures from July 4th with a new contractor. I'm not sure if you heard earlier, the attorney for the city stated that they now have given the property owner an action plan that they must be held accountable to. I guess what really shocked me was the fact that the property owner didn't have its own action agenda. So, you know, our goal here is to get you back in your home safely, but in the meantime, legal aid, have you spoken to an attorney?
Me personally, I've not, but I did contact Hudson Valley, or well, legal services of Hudson Valley. I'm just waiting to hear back from them. But it's just, it's honestly frightening to have to go through something like this, especially because this is my first time.
It's
doing
horrifying.
something like this.
It's horrifying. I was there the day of the evictions and there were people coming out of their units, their apartments. They didn't even know they were being evicted. The communication council members, Oriento and I were there, and people were at work. They didn't know they were being evicted. This, the communication has been absolutely horrible. What you have endured is absolutely unacceptable. And, you know, we are working with the mayor to hold the property owner's feet to the fire. We will do anything from where we sit to help you get back in your home safely. So thank you for coming this evening. Councilmember Gully, I believe, had a question.
Well, again, my question was answered when you asked where you were hearing this information from. I find it obnoxiously insulting that your landlord put you in that position and then expects you to pay rent for an apartment you can't live in. I don't think that he can actually collect that money because he has a fiduciary duty to produce a safe, habitual place for you to live your life without any issues, and he hasn't done that. I hope that this landlord is held accountable to the full extent that he can be held accountable, because I think that landlords in this city have to do a better job of taking care of their tenants. They have to do a great job making sure that they're safe in their habitats and not to go through all this that you're going through now. We don't have any course to tell you when you can get back in and when you can't. That's on your property owner and, their team. But if I was in a position with you guys, I would certainly seek, legal information as to what my options were. But in no way, shape, or form would I ever hand that man a penny for a department I could step into. And, I hope you don't either.
I have no thing that you know, Ryan.
Thank you again. Next speaker and. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having us. Okay, so my name is Everest Nicholas. And I'm gonna actually be reading half of what I wanted to say because I'm gonna get very emotional. That's what I don't want. So I just want to say, I hope everybody had a good Independence Day. Because those of us who lived in Harbor Point did not. There were people telling us we're gonna have hot dogs and hamburgers. And we're still waiting to see them. I was here earlier when Madam President, you mentioned that you were told that they were bringing us food. So I decided that I should share some of my food with the council. Here's the ramen noodles, of which I got 3 packages. Here is Ruffles, of which I got 3 packages. And here is the last bottle of water. So that's 4 bottles of water, and I've been out of my home for 16 days today. So this is my 3 meals right here. I guess, I don't know which one was supposed to be breakfast, which was lunch, and which was dinner. So,
And you should know, the property manager is not telling.
and this was one time
Yeah.
in 16 days. So I want to just go back a little bit on this story so that you have a full picture of what we're actually going through and then get to my part.
Thank you.
So on June 22nd, code may place a sign on my door stating that the buildings were inhabitable and we must leave immediately. This was all due to the possibility of the brick facade falling off. We were housed by the landlord at the Red Inn and told it would be until Monday, 6/26. We got a call on Sunday saying they were going to meet on Monday morning, but for us to wait and we should hear from them, but do not come to the building until we hear from them. Monday afternoon, we got a phone call saying we cannot come back to our buildings right now. The code department is playing hardball. So therefore, we're going to be moving to another hotel. So let me pull that back, because we haven't been in a hotel. We've been in a hotel, a motel rather. You know, the roadside ones that I see when I'm traveling with all you got it. I didn't have to say that word, right? Thank you.
We got it.
All right, so then things went on. So June 23rd is when I woke up and realized the situation I was in. I'm 70 years old and I feel homeless. I have worked for New York State for 34 years of my life. During the pandemic, I went back to work with the state to help my fellow citizens. I worked another 2.5 years, only stopping because I became ill. Right now, I feel that I'm between a hard place and a rock. I don't know which is harder. So we're in a place where we can't cook. Now, we know there are days that many of us don't want to cook. But my ability to cook and cook for myself and having the health issues that I have, I'm on a special diet. This is not on my diet. There's no protein here whatsoever. But this is what they did for us. And we should be grateful, right?
No.
Okay, so now we've all been housed in a very nice area. We all know Wolf Road area. Have you looked at the prices of food in that area? Apart from the gas, try to go to someplace. Now, if I go to Buco Cafes, it's gonna be my birthday. And especially now with the prices, I decided after all that I couldn't take this anymore and I just need to treat myself. I couldn't pay $33 for a piece of chicken, so I did not. So now we were told originally that we were only going to be housed for 5 days. So we would be going back home on Monday. Then we got the call and we got moved. On July 3rd, a crew showed up. Now, one thing I will say, the city has allowed us to go back and forth, and there are times I forget some medicine. I'm 70 years old on a lot of medication, so memory is not the best. And I would go back and so I get an opportunity to see how things work. On the 3rd is the first time I can say that I saw work being done on those buildings. They had people working on the 4th. At 11:11 on the 4th, I got a phone call saying the electricity needed to be turned off because workmen had to be there. They didn't tell me about the accident that created the problem why the electricity was off. So I rushed over so that all the food that I have does not spoil. I had to call a friend to see, as a matter of fact, I called several friends to see who had space in their freezer that could take some of my food. So being the West Indian woman that I am, I have a lot of oxtail. If any of you know what that is, it's not cheap. So I made sure that my oxtails were someplace safe. That's all I could take, all my vegetables, everything else. I have a small freezer. I just did not open that hoping. I got there at 10. I got there at 40. All the lights were already off. As I'm going out the door, I happened to notice that there was light in my bedroom. So I can't figure out why is there light in my bedroom and there's light nowhere else. So I proceeded to now turn around and go to my bedroom. I go to my bedroom. And this is why there's light in my bedroom. My bureau, right behind my dresser, my bureau, is a hole in the wall. Now they're supposed to be working, I'm speaking to you all can hear me. They're supposed to be working on bricks, which is outside of the building. How did they get to my bedroom on the inside with the sledgehammers that they were using? Earlier, you asked the question, how did it get so bad? One of the things you talked about is how often are things truly inspected? So that's one thing that the council can look into in terms of doing that. This is how I had been living. This was a month prior to this. I turned on my water. And this, as you can see, the darker one, the lighter one was 5 minutes later. I buy bottled water so that I don't kill myself by trying to drink what comes out of these faucets. I live on my Social Security and my state pension. If this does not work out, where do I go? Rents are as high as gas plus. My pension cannot stretch. Mr. Biden has already given me all he's going to give me. That is not going to take me into any apartment in Troy. So this is not some place or some way that I expected to be living my quote unquote golden years. Looking at that picture that I showed you, these buildings were built in the 60s. All of that stuff that fell into my house has been in those walls for 60 years. They have to come in and fix that. When they decided they're just putting up plasterboard or whatever else, what happens to all of that dust that is in my room? I'm 70 years old. I have a heart condition. I'm a diabetic. I'm a cancer survivor. I have pulmonary issues. Who abates that area so that I can go in there safely? Who pays for that when we have a landlord that won't pay for anything now? One of my fellow residents mentioned that they are not getting any kind, we're not getting any kind of communication. We get communications from the office manager / secretary. No one from this corporation has spoken to us directly. I have called, I ask daily, when am I hearing from them? I tell secretary, no matter how many times you say you're sorry, at this point, it is null and void.
Is that Lisa?
Yes, we love her to death, but if
Sure.
it comes to the point of,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, you're just a spokesman. I need to hear from the man who gets my rent, who makes the decisions.
Right.
One of them needs to stand up and be a MAN.
Yep.
Okay, so I want to just say at this point, I want to thank you for the updates because the gentlemen were here. I'm on that list. So I do get updates from them. Since we have been out of that house, I have gotten 3 emails from my landlord. Basically, after the city has sent me something to tell me their version. Okay, but at no point have I told anything. I don't know where I'm living. I'm also scheduled for a vacation that I put off since pandemic. I cannot go anywhere and I don't know where I'm living. So that's money lost. Because I can't live and come back and where do I go? All right, so I needed to put that face for you. So you see this face and put that with what's going on. So for anyone who hasn't seen, I do have more pictures. There's a little bit more graphic of the holes, and that's in my wall. That's not in some of the other walls. Now, if you're taking off bricks, why would you be using a sledgehammer? Unless you were trying to break up the building in the first place.
Yeah.
Okay? So I thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to say what I need to say.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for,
Hot water, but there's cold water. You have dinner? Anyone?
thank you so much for putting a face on your living situation. And, you know, I must say, we will, get the latest update. I mean, for the corporation council, the mayor, to hear this one-on-one is very, very important because they have given the property owner an action plan. If the property owner is not going to be held accountable to that action plan, something has to be done for the residents. So,
We all know that what speaks loudest is the mighty dollar.
yeah.
Okay?
Councilmember Mims.
I actually would love to ask a couple questions because I am a landlord and when I've had bad things happen, I put my tenants up and I get expenses. That's my bill. I wanted to ask a couple questions for everyone at Harbor Point. One, do you have a copy of your, a written copy of your lease? And if you don't already, make sure you get one. Make sure you're documenting all of your expenses for this period of time. And, if possible, to get counsel, either together, or separately. And to ask them if you think the best thing to do is to put your rent in an escrow account.
But I did a stop payment.
Yeah.
You know,
And those-
I did that, but on Saturday, of course, they sent me something that they had already sent to my bank to get money, but I made sure on Thursday, I stopped my
If
payment.
you have auto payments, decoupling them,
Mhm.
and again, not legal advice, please consult with your own attorneys, but document, and any communication, please do in writing.
Right.
With your landlord. I think at this point, everyone should be mentally preparing themselves to resolve this.
Important.
And those are just, and also make sure that you're updating your renter's insurance. If you don't have renter's insurance, it is one of the most important things you can do to protect your personal property because their homeowner's insurance may not cover you. So that is absolutely essential. It may save you thousands upon thousands of dollars.
Make sure you read that policy because I called mine and a lot of this is not covered thus far.
Yeah, but your property that's
Inside your apartment. One thing I wanted to add to this because what is looking on the outside?
I was just going to ask that you
But inside
mentioned
the
inspection.
problematic.
Has anyone been inside for an inspection? We're only.
Not that I know of. I've been there 17 years. So I'm not a new tenant,
Okay,
okay? No one has ever said they wanted to come to my apartment
okay.
and I keep it clean.
Oh, I
They can
can
come.
imagine. I can see that. Councilmember Soriento. I just want to add, I am really sorry for what you and the residents are going through. This is absolutely, I am furious right now, of how you're all being treated. Your quality of life has been impacted tremendously. And if there's anything that I can do to help in any way, I'm here for you.
Well,
And this is absolutely unacceptable.
one thing I would say that this is teaching me, because I've been reaching out, I've been on phone calls since 23rd of this month. Trying to find help any which way I called. I started with my assembly person. Went to my senator. I went to Tonko. Now we know he is federal. Said, I know you're federal. Yes, I'm well aware. I was a PEP member, so I'm well aware of all of your roles.
Sure.
But I also know that the city of Troy gets state and federal money, so you should be just as involved. Everybody knocks on our doors when they want the job. I mean, everybody. Now it's time for somebody to stand up and do that job.
Agreed. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Maureen. I wasn't gonna speak, but after coming.
Maureen, I apologize. Can you give your last name and you could pull that right out?
Oh, sure.
Do you want to share and you could pull that right out?
That's okay, 'cause I'm gonna be able to
I
see you
noticed
guys.
your foot. Yeah.
Yes, and last name is Nichols. I wasn't gonna speak, but when I came in here and listened to the owner, some of the things he was telling me,
Yeah.
it very, very upset me. I moved into an apartment on April 1st, 2019. I worked at Parsons Family Center. I was able to restrain kids. I was nice and slim. October 2nd, 2019, I came out of my apartment building to go to work. I live in apartment 188A. When you go down my pathway, there is a huge hole. Then you step on the sidewalk and the sidewalk slants down. I was leaving for work. There was leaves everywhere. Did not see the hole, tripped in the hole, went down the hill. I broke every single bone in my right ankle, tore everything. Here it is, 2023. I'm going for my 8th surgery on the ankle. I was told when this first happened that by the previous owner, that if I tried to sue him, I was going to be evicted.
They can't do that. They can't.
So, I've been going on, I'm 100% stable now. I am a type 1 diabetic. I am living in this small apartment, a small room with me, my boyfriend, and our 2 dogs. We had to borrow a crock pot from my mother. So I can try to get what I'm supposed to be eating, being a diabetic. I had schedules for, June 21st, I was supposed to go for an angiogram for my leg. Now I can't have it because I have to be laid up in bed for 3 days. And I don't know where I'm gonna be, what's going on, so I had kids. So, I've never had anybody come in and inspect my apartment. I don't know what he was talking about, but I'm 100% disabled. I get Social Security disability, which is a lot less than what I was making at Parsons.
Oh, yeah.
It's very hard to live off of that. And, it just really annoyed me that he said he was bringing us food, that they were checking our apartments. Oh, yeah, just to bring up my railing, there's no railing, no front railing to get up. And they know I'm disabled. They know I'm in a wheelchair. I was in a wheelchair for 7 months because of this. So they just don't take care about us. And then, oh, by the way, I do have a lawyer. He looked at my lease and he laughed at it. It's not a real lease. And I know there's like 15 to 20 leases out there. They're all different. All of us have different leases, sorry.
It's okay.
But I just wonder, let you know a little bit.
No, we thank you, and clearly some of the things that Councilmember Soriento and I were told by the property manager, we were obviously being snowballed, so we appreciate you telling us the real truth of
Well, thank you,
what's going on.
thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak to the council? Sure. Sure.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Lisa Hinman. I'm a travel public speaker, so bear with me.
Don't worry about it. None of us, we're just here to listen.
So I'm sending pictures around, and I actually have more, and I went in last night to an area that was really not supposed to be affected, but because of concern of maybe brick coming down outside, they moved myself and my neighbor to the right, but they didn't move the neighbor on the left side. I've now got broken glass all over my bedroom. I don't have the whole picture. I don't know how I didn't think that one. I actually have more pictures. The entire window casement has come out. Glass on my bed, on my floor. I work paycheck to paycheck. I work hard.
And did you, and I'm sure you contacted Lisa or somebody at the office?
It was very interesting. So everything, I was called away from my pre-K graduation by an emergency call from my neighbor down below saying, you need to get home, you need to get home, this is what's happening. So I had to leave my kindergarten, my pre-K graduation. Kids not understanding why I was suddenly leaving. To get home and be a note saying basically immediately evacuate. Thank God for siblings who are phenomenal, who helped me get a lot of my stuff out.
Oh, so was this the day?
The day of,
Okay,
So,
I'm sorry.
I should have backed up.
Yeah,
So the day of,
Okay.
the actual,
like I said, some people had no idea.
yeah,
The
no, I
communication-
from my neighbor below me, and I'm telling him I can't talk, and he's like, no, you need to talk to me.
Yeah.
So it was absolutely insane. So on and so forth. Again, they said, when they were doing the laser thing, they kind of said, no, there wasn't gonna be a problem with my apartment, but because maybe some brick would fall, they're gonna move myself and my neighbor below me out, but the person on the left side stayed. I have a cat who is in total distress, living, in this motel. I've lost income, pay, overtime, and I live paycheck to paycheck with very little room. I don't want to reiterate everything everyone else has said because it's all happened. What was most interesting was that happened on Thursday, Friday. I'm getting the notice from the city stating on my door in Habitable. I walk over to the office and they're like, great news, we'll probably be back on Monday. And I'm like, what the flip? Literally, what the heck is going on? Nobody's communicating. The only thing I really have received was one other paper stating that we were gonna be probably out in another week. And then they wanted my rent check. And, the whole late charge fee was gonna happen after all that. So, I'm concerned because, not concerned, I'm upset because there have been so many code violations for that place. I've been there 16 years, that's all. And how none of them were addressed in all those years are beyond me. The sidewalks are horrific. I fell, hurt my knee. The gentleman who owned it before, they did pay for my, they paid for my doctor's visit, they paid for my week that I was out of work. But my ortho said to me, you're gonna need knee replacement 10 years down the road. Well, guess what? That didn't last for 5 years. I'm not the so happy person. Now I'm wishing, I kind of did. The PTSD that I'm suffering.
I can't.
Getting-
answer that.
And a lot of people who wanted to come, but didn't, if they could come. So I'm trying to speak for those people that just
are having a hard time with this, and, I don't know, because I did not pay my rent. And I don't know if I'll have a place next week when they don't receive my, the whole rent check next, so. I would really appreciate it from all of you, if you could be some of our voices, because we're not getting our voices to the people of that. Harper Gardens. I don't know anybody. I met Mike the first time the other night, when he was getting out that bag. And, being told by one person, and that was because apparently there was pizza given to us on a Friday night from a tenant's boss. And they were backtracking because they told me that we got pizza from them. So suddenly, when they heard there was a tenant meeting, we were gonna try to just brainstorm and figure out what our next step was. They come in with those goodie bags. So it's just very disheartening that, I've always been proud of Troy.
Yeah.
I've lived in it my entire life. I've always stood up for it. Some people trashed it. And I need you to back myself and all the tenants that are there now.
Thank you, thank you.
And I do have more pictures. I don't know if everyone wants to see one on my phone. I didn't get them all ready because more has happened. So.
Thank you. Thank you. Rick, I hate to put you on the spot, Rick. Are you back there? I have a quick question. Not there. Chris, do you mind? Okay. Just real quick, Aaron. So today, we have we issued tickets to the property owner to date.
We've issued the code violation, we haven't issued tickets yet, but that's something I'm talking to her about.
I definitely, now that I hear these horrific stories, it's unacceptable.
Yep.
And this landlord, an action plan, not enough. I say we go after this landlord, this is unacceptable, and this landlord clearly holding them accountable is not working for the people that live in these apartments or used to live. I think we need to get it really hard here.
So Rick and I are having conversations about the next steps as far as legal choice. On the same side, what kills me is that the residents are not getting the accurate information from the landlords, and we don't have the action plan for how they're gonna fix this. But there's a laundry list of violations that the landlord has to address, and yes, we're looking at the law.
Council member Gowers.
I got a couple questions. I mean, listening to all this, and I'm trying to think, what is this landlord thinking? Is he trying to escape out of this situation, or what is this process? And then I wonder, I mean, they say we're a new landlord, you know how long he's owned the property?
Couple years.
May of 22.
May of 22. Could, I mean, I'm just, usually under the gun like this, a landlord that's financially strengthful is gonna cure the situation rather than face the lawsuits. Could it be a situation where he doesn't have the financial strength to build a building? That's why he's bringing in these job contractors that are smashing bricks through these individuals' walls on their personal property. I mean, should we look in the fact that can he fix it? If not, do we have to make some sort of other determination here to fix these people up right?
I can't speak to the finances of the LLC. I will say that they spent over $1 million or $11 million to purchase the property. And if you go check out their website, it looks like they have the money to fix it. So they need to make sure that they do it.
Yeah, because if they have the funding, we need to get a little step on
I
those guys.
discussed it when I saw it today.
Oh.
They asked for a code inspection.
I can imagine.
They thought was upset.
I mean, if I could compare to when we were there to today, it's 100 times worse. Councilmember Steele.
Council President, we as a council have subpoena power.
Yeah.
And I would recommend that when you bring in and we question him,
Yeah.
let him answer to us.
Yep.
If he's not gonna answer to the tenants, let him answer to us.
That's right.
And we bring him in and we get it.
I spoke.
This is-
Yes,
So,
Councilmember Soriento.
This is absolutely, like we all said, it's unacceptable hold them accountable to the fullest extent, issue tickets, bring them to court. They can't lie in front of a judge. They can't lie. Ticket them as, honestly, this is everybody here.
Immediately.
We got
Everybody
it.
here. You know, I mean, their lives are upside down right now.
Well, how about, we have a motion on the floor, to subpoena this particular property owner. I'll second the motion and let's do a quick vote. Councilmember Gully,
Yes.
Councilmember Figueroa, absent, Councilmember Steele,
Aye.
Councilmember Mann,
Yes.
Councilmember Conley
I
Wilson.
just want to say, I personally had my experience with really terrible landlords in Troy. And it doesn't matter how much they make in rent, doesn't matter how many properties they have, they do not care. I'm disgusted by the food that they've been giving you, I'm disgusted by the conditions you guys have been living in.
Yeah.
I'm upset that how you guys are living, you guys don't even have like a kitchen. I'm so sorry. Of course I'm gonna support this.
Yeah.
And I want us to do everything possible because that's not acceptable. We can't let this continue. And we have to make sure that this doesn't happen again.
That's right, an example.
Make an example. Not our city.
No, unacceptable.
Your vote.
Aye.
Councilmember
Yeah,
Soto.
and I want to add the fact that Council President Carmella Mantello and myself were told, oh, they're being fed, oh, we're providing transportation. Okay, this was sugar coated. And I'm so glad that you all came up here, took time off from your family to come here and speak to us. And really paint us a real clear picture of what's going on that we weren't told of. We didn't know. And I really want to thank you all, and we'll do everything we can in our power to, to get you, to get you back home safely. And, have this, have the landlord held accountable 100%.
And Council President, my vote very quickly, I'm mad, I'm furious, I'm with Councilmember Conley Wilson. This is disgusting. This should not happen in our city. And clearly, we have never used this power. This will be the first time that we use subpoena power during my tenure. So saying that, we will use it, and I vote aye.
It's unanimous, and we will see your.
That's good. That's good.
Some of these people are torn away and not able to live with their families. They're put into motel rooms that are disgusting. Do we have any organizations or any programs that might be able to help them get something a little more suitable to having a normal life and get them out of those hotels that have the races at night and get them into a place that might be a little, trip somebody, have a few places put these people up for a little while to help them?
Yeah, we've spoken to different entities about potential locations. I will say, and I feel like I've spoken to half the group that came up here to talk already.
Yeah.
Legal Aid Society of Northeastern New York has offered to assist. We did put together a two pager that we dropped off over 100 copies to the Travel Lodge last week. Again, we don't have the contact information for the residents. It's important that they reach out. I think Councilmember Mendes and the others are right to seek legal guidance.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was more thinking that maybe since RPI is out of their session until September, that maybe some of those places that they use, we could utilize in a shared service or shared coordination with them. That the people have a little peace for the next couple of weeks, or because it could be a month or so until they get anywhere. But I just thought maybe we could reach out to them.
So we did reach out, on the day that we had to evacuate the apartments, we reached out to, Russell Sage. And also we're looking at RPI. RPI has the summer arts program and the other units don't have air conditioning. Same thing with Russell Sage, the units that they could put people up in didn't have air conditioning. And I'm thinking of a day like today and I wouldn't want anybody in that type of situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it.
Well, I'm not sure if Rick is here, if he is here, okay. On that note, now that the council has approved subpoena power toward this property owner, we'll work with the corporation council to proceed. Eric.
I still. Now, I stand before you here today as a crusader for over 100 people and their pets who, because of malfeasance and corruption that has permeated the executive branch of City Hall, are now homeless. I stand before you here tonight on behalf of all the tenants, not just the ones you've heard from today, who have been wronged by their landlord, 182 Delaware LLC, and its owner, Jay Friedman. On May 9th, the city became aware of thousands of conditions representing violations. Hundreds were levied. 31 separate classifications encompassing 200 violations were issued. On that day, the incompetent and corrupt Department of Code Enforcement issued a violation report which gave the landlord 30 days to cure these violations and submitted an architect or engineer report relating to the sagging walls. On June 13th, the incompetent and corrupt code enforcement verified that practically none of the violations were cured and no architect or engineer report had still been submitted despite the deadline. In spite of this, the Code Enforcement Department gave an indeterminate period of time for the violations to be cured, even after the original 30 days had expired. Now, on June 13th and on May 13th, the city did not believe that the walls constituted a condition violating the safety and health of our tenants. A week of public pressure that we placed on City Hall, and 8 hours after I sent an email threatening to start a campaign to remove Deputy Mayor Chris Nolan, 8 hours later, Chris Nolan, for the first time, visited our property to evict us all. So what changed in that period of time? Well, I'll tell you what changed. They decided to send a message. The message was clear not only to tenants in Harbor Point Gardens, but to 2 other housing complexes in this city that are now facing similar problems and have formed tenants association. And that message was this: if you complain about your landlord, you're going to end up like the tenants in Harbor Point Gardens. So shut up, pay excessive rent increases, and live in deplorable conditions. Even as the tenants have been punished, the landlord, who has flouted every law, violation, regulation, city ordinance, and the actual violations themselves, has not been brought to account. Not only has he not been brought into code enforcement, but he hasn't even been made to pay for the engineer's report that is costing the taxpayers of this city that he didn't supply to begin with. Now, the law provides for a $500 fine for every violation not cured within 30 days, and a 1-year jail sentence for every major violation not cured within 30 days. Now, our landlord has begun the process to take our tenants to court for non-payment of rent. He's already begun serving 5-day notices. What comes next is a 14-day notice. And then after that, a notice of petition, and petition could be before court. So, while the city does nothing, our landlord is taking each and every one of our people to court to charge them for back rent, even though they don't live in their apartments. Okay? Now, I stand before you here tonight to demand that our landlord before the Code Enforcement Court and be subjected to the sanctions and laws that are on this books that the mayor, the deputy mayor, and the corporation council have willfully and negligently avoided to prosecute. I have never seen a case like this in my 35 years of working with tenants organizations. Never. And I come from New York City. And in New York City, you know what we do to a landlord like this? We put him in jail. That's what we do. we would have put him in jail 45 days ago. We're not talking about a few violations. We're talking about conditions that led to the declaration of uninhabitable premises. And even after that's happened, we've had nothing but sugar-coated statements issued by the mayor. He's hopeful that the landlord will proceed to enact plans. He's hopeful that the landlord will operate properly. Well, I can tell you, and I can provide film, video film to this council. What has happened over the last 2 days has been worse than if the buildings were left alone, and a worst case scenario that the bricks actually would have fallen down, we would have had less damages. Now, just today, you've heard and seen pictures, and that's only a small snippet of the conditions of people's apartments. Today, I spoke to the deputy mayor on site, and I asked him, well, what's the plan going forward here? And they intend to approve whatever expediently gets the landlord his goal. Now, I've heard a couple of you folks up here talk about the fastest thing you want to do is get tenants back into their apartment. I know some folks have added the word safely in. But let me tell you this, that's not what we're interested in. We do want to get back in our apartments, but we don't want to go back to a war zone, and we don't want to go back to a war zone where we're responsible for having this thing up. You know what Deputy Mayor Nolan told me? Well, when you get back into your apartments, tell the landlord about the repairs and see if he does them. Now, we have 200 violations still outstanding from May 9th that the landlord hasn't done anything about. And but for the city enforcing the wall violation cure, he wouldn't have done that either. So what makes anyone think that he's going to respond to 60 apartments all at the same time, claiming they need emergency repairs? And so when I presented that scenario to Deputy Mayor Nolan, he responded, well, then they could call code enforcement. And on a white horse, Dave Sheeran, who's willfully been blind to everything for the last 20 years at our complex, is suddenly going to ride in on a white horse and save our people. Well, guess what? He hasn't done it up to this point, and it's his negligence that led to giving the landlord this additional time to begin with. Had on May 9th, when I brought this to the attention of the city, had they done the right thing and ordered the landlord to immediately submit the architecture report, and failing that, had the city taken over the operational control of this project, not just getting in Labella Engineering to submit an engineering report, but using the same two statutes, one local, one state, that provides that the city can take over operational control of the project, and by that I mean they hire the contractors, and then we proceed. We lost a week, 1 week, because they allowed informally the landlord to contest the first architect engineering. When that ploy didn't work, they started the work, and they hired a very good contractor, Davco Masonry. They did the north wall of building 152. They spent 8 hours, and they pulled off one complete wall. But these were artisans. They were very careful. They took off every brick by brick. There is no damage to building 152's north wall. But this contractor was fired by the landlord because he made 2 mistakes, at least that I know of, in the eyes of the landlord. Number one, he appeared on Channel 10 News, and he spoke about how deplorable the conditions were in Harbor Point. He pointed out, among other things, that the design of the gutters was such that it was causing water to flow down into the foundations of the building, which is exactly what had caused our problems to begin with. And it's this landlord that took over that put up the gutters back last year. And he also told the landlord, no, I don't want to put up plastic bags as a permanent barrier. You're going to need this, and this. And that constituted a thing, among other things, waterproofing, proper stripping, and the proper substance that would be used to cover the outer walls. The landlord didn't like 2 things about that. One, he didn't like that it cost that much money. And number 2, he didn't like that this person broadcasted how bad conditions were at Harbor Point Gardens. And if I may add a 3rd thing, he didn't like that it was going to take that much time, because guess what? When you do the job properly and you don't use what these contractors are using, and you know what they're using? sledgehammers, picks, pry bars, battering rams. They used a battering ram on one of our walls that knocked in an entire top floor worth of apartments. Those people not here today. Now, so when you say you want to get people back into their apartments, it's got to be under a different scheme than that outlined by Chris Nolan. Because under his scheme, our people are going to be living in worse conditions than they are right now, stuffed into one rooms in a one-night seated fly-by-night motel. So we don't want to be, what we want what you already said was, we want the subpoena of this landlord to answer. That's number one, but that's not going to get us any help. What we want is the city to take over operational control of this project immediately. Hire back the original contractor, Dabco Construction, and let him perform this function that is not being done now, so the rest of the complex isn't destroyed. As I sent an urgent email to the mayor and the deputy mayor last night, because there's tenants came to me, they're like, can you do something? They're set to destroy my building tomorrow. And that didn't happen because I was told that the landlord has the right to do whatever he wants to the exterior of the building. And get this, they even, throughout this whole process, they performed all kinds of work without permits, because I was told that work that's already done, code enforcement doesn't care about, and also the other work that has been done. And we're talking about structural repairs, electrical wiring, and plumbing reconfiguration, all needing permits, but it was signed off by some bureaucrat who didn't even come to the property and look to see what we were complaining of. So now, I was told today that this isn't structural. Well, it's not structural what they're doing. So you're telling me that the wall that is now crushed in this building, or totally on the ground in another building, that's not structural? Okay, what they did today, what Chris Nolan did today on the property is a continuation of the systematic cover-up that's been going on to shield this landlord from code enforcement court or any liability whatsoever. Okay, what they should have done today is take a look at what's going on and stop the project immediately and remove these contractors before they destroy the rest of the complex, because we don't want that. We still have people that can go back if they do it properly. So I'm asking the council to recommend at the very least that those options be followed. Now, I was also,
Eric, I'm going to ask you to start wrapping it up, okay?
well, I will tell you this. I've heard so many lies today from Chris Nolan that my head is spinning. Okay, as far as contacting the tenants to give them help, they already know who the tenants are because they're sending them email messages from this ridiculous communication number that finally worked after 3 days. So they know who they are. They're not asking us they're not contacting us with relevant information because they don't have any relevant information. That's the real answer, okay? We're not asking for miracles. I've spelled out what could be done here. Get the landlord into code enforcement court. It's not even just about penalties. It's not about prison, but right now, and I know this landlord, he wouldn't last 2 seconds in jail, and guess what? He knows it. What we need now is to pressure the landlord to make a settlement whereby he forgoes the right to demand rent from tenants who are not in their apartments and will compensate tenants for their damages. That's what we need. That's what we're asking for. And dare I say, that's what we demand.
Thank you, Eric. Is the mayor, I had a quick question, Mayor, if you're back there. Thank you. Okay, is Rick or okay, thank you. Would anyone else, while we're waiting on the mayor, like to speak? Okay, we'll just wait on the mayor and then we'll start wrapping it up. While folks are waiting, because this is new and I was not super familiar with the investigative powers. I knew we had subpoena power, but the city council may, as the committee of the whole, and pursuant to a resolution duly adopted, conduct a public inquiry into any matter related to the affairs of the city. Any such reso shall specify the purpose and scope of the inquiry and shall establish procedures for the conduct thereof. Council president may be authorized by 2/3 majority vote of the council to subpoena specific persons or records or both. So you authorize that this evening. The council may pursuant to the authorizing resolution, which we'll talk to Rick about how to structure this, administer oaths, and take testimony and adopt a report of its findings. Any person who unlawfully fails or refuses to obey a lawfully issued subpoena pursuant to this section shall be guilty of a misdemeanor punishable by a fine of not more than $1,000 or by imprisonment for not more than 1 year or both. So that is the powers of the council. We'll proceed with the resolution. We'll talk to Rick about that. And Mayor, thank you. While I was just informing, brushing up on investigative powers. Mayor, what Eric has suggested in terms of overseeing all the operations and taking control of that, I've never heard of that. Is that something legal that can be done? Now, I'm not asking you if you want to do it, or can that legally be done?
I won't speak for the corporation council, but I don't see a legal basis to come in and take somebody's property.
I'll provide the statute.
It would be nice, if that were possible, but I don't know that that's possible.
Right, and
So we,
I think he's not suggesting taking over the property, suggesting taking over the operations of.
that's essentially taking over property. You're taking away property rights from somebody. That's,
Right. Okay.
I'm sorry, what about the tenants' property rights from them?
I don't disagree, and I think the tenants ought to be speaking to an attorney. I wish we could give you legal advice, but we're not allowed to do that. So again, I would urge council to be brought in. with tenants.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Did you
It's
want
not
to
fair.
add
I mean,
any?
the property owner has rights. Tenants have rights. But I don't think we have the ability to step into their shoes and start directing how the property should be repaired,
Contract.
and hire contractors. I don't see a legal basis for that. But we can ask Rick.
And since the answer is, I don't know, that means that somebody needs to look and check.
Yes, and we have a city attorney, and he would be looking into that.
Council President,
Yes, council member.
if they have building permits, though, wouldn't the city then oversee those projects?
There would be oversight to ensure that the work that was done is in compliance with the city, I'm sorry, building code.
Okay.
I have another
We
question.
said, yeah, we wouldn't supervise the contractor or direct their work.
Council member Conley,
And so just kind of answer my question, I'm concerned about the quality of work, I think we all are here, and it's like, I don't know what City Hall can do, but having someone there to watch what's going on and make sure that things are being handled appropriately and with care.
Yeah, so
Basic things.
typically code would come in at certain points during the construction or a deep renovation project, and they would look at things, the electrical, plumbing, how the studs are installed, the installation, things of that nature. We would do that. We would inspect the job as it progresses.
Has that been done by code?
They haven't done anything yet other than remove it, so they have not started reconstruction. They have to come to us with a plan and tell us, what material they're gonna use, how it's going to be applied. They have to meet current code, as I understand it, so that will entail things like insulation, and wallboard and weather shielding that is part of the code now, that wasn't part of the code when it was originally built. That's my understanding.
And, you know, Mayor, I think, and I can't speak for my fellow colleagues, I think I can speak for Councilmember Soriento, maybe Councilmember Gully, but we gotta take these property owners to court. I mean, we have to.
We don't disagree. I think, this was not an easy thing for us to do. We knew that it was gonna be a huge interruption. We don't know all the details of people were gonna live through. But when our engineer said there was a risk to humans, then we had to act. It was our legal obligation to, and to not act, would have subjected us to great criticism and lawsuits potentially if someone were hurt. So it was difficult, and we worked very hard with the landlord to try to get him to understand what he needed to do. We didn't get the cooperation, or we got misstatements. And that's why we worked so hard to contact the residents and share the accurate information. But we would have a meeting with the landlord's representatives, agree on something, and then a tenant would share something 20 minutes later that the property manager said that was absolutely 180 degrees contrary to what I agreed to. I don't know if they're nefarious or they're not talking to each other. There are a number of people involved. But our goal was to get people and to work as collaboratively as we could. That's not work, that hack isn't working. The work that was done there on the third and fourth, was very shocking. It's just like, are you kidding?
I literally drove up there before the holiday weekend. And then when Aaron sent me pictures on July 4th, I sent them to him, like, what is going on here? It's like a bulldozer went through a bomb, hit it. It's just.
Well, you know, we could expect that it would look pretty rough when they took the brick down. We didn't think they'd bust through the walls.
Right.
We didn't think they'd knock out an electrical service. It was subpar work, to say the least. And then today, to have them call us and say, can you come up and inspect? We thought, oh, maybe they made some progress, and we went up today, and they should be embarrassed. There were windows that were tied back over. There were holes in walls that were broken joists. So their engineer needs to come up with a design, work plan, and then we can issue a building permit based on that. But they need to act quickly. So yes, we can apply more pressure. Our first goal, again, was to get people back in, work collaboratively with the landlord to expedite the process. They failed to do what they need to do. So now we ratchet up the pressure.
I think if, in my opinion, we just need to put the hammer down on them.
And we, to the residents, we need email addresses, if you would please, so that we can keep in touch. Even if you're not one of the impacted tenants, we'd like to keep all the tenants at the facility apprised of what's going on. Landlord has refused to share that information with us. So we've been building that database slowly. But if everybody could sign up, we'd be more than happy to share information.
Thank you. And Councilmember Gully, I think, had a question.
Mr. Mayor, I just find it very frustrating to know this all started on May 9th, we're almost 2 months in, and we're still talking about how we're gonna ramp it up on the landlord. These people have no answers to their questions. I mean, not that we should have ramped it up earlier, because I know everybody has rights, but I just think that when you say we have to ramp it up, we should ramp it up tomorrow, not Monday or Tuesday, but tomorrow. And we should put pressure on this guy, because what he's doing to these people was wrong, and what he's doing to the city of Troy, being a landlord here is wrong.
Right.
We have great investors. And our city is doing great work out there, and we're letting this guy run through this tragedy of what he calls his project up there, and it just seems to be getting worse. Is there another intent there? Does we have any serious conversations with this guy? Why he would hire a contract, why you would hire a contractor that would do that type of work to make the situation worse instead of better? I would have my guys up there talking to him every day. What the heck are you doing up here? And find out some answers, because we don't have answers. They don't have answers. And now we're gonna subpoena the landlord to get those answers. We need to move faster with this, because these people do not deserve that. Nobody in the city deserves that to go do this.
So we received an engineering report this afternoon.
and Codes is writing it up, probably Jesse's writing it up tonight. And we'll be meeting with Jesse and Port Council first thing. This is consuming a huge amount of our time trying to, and the goal is, again, the goal is to get people back in as quickly as possible. We understand the inconvenience, we understand the pain they're going. Our goal is to get them in. And
Lives are shattered.
I know.
They're living in motel rooms. They can't even get food, they're eating ramen noodles and freaking crackers. And they were told, we were told that they were being fed,
Yeah.
they're being taken care of. That's not, there's a lot of stories where these guys are apparently just telling you what people want to hear, but not showing us any factual evidence that they're doing their job. And we need to do a better job.
Yeah.
Councilmember Conley Wilson, I don't think the priority should be getting people back into the space, if the space is not
Right.
safe.
Well, this-
I think the first priority here is making sure that people can actually live and like function as people.
Well, no, absolutely, that's a
Much
condition.
like-
We could, if we didn't have that thought, we would have said, oh, yeah, you can move back in today. No, it's gotta be safe for people, they've gotta be protected. from the
They've
elements.
been living 2 weeks without a kitchen.
Now?
Doesn't, yeah, it's not, how is it, their walls down? I just don't understand how it's going to take any time reasonably soon. Like within the next week, when they're, so like, that also needs to be something that needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
I understand you guys are working on it, but like, when you say, getting people back into their homes quickly. When their homes are not how they left.
They're not safe now, and that's why we would not allow them to recalculate the apartments. It's gotta be safe.
What about the tenants having a decent place to stay and meanwhile?
Is there, Mayor, what about, can Trip maybe?
So I've spoken to Tripp, I've spoken to Troy Housing Authority. As Chris indicated, we reached out to Russell Sage College. I spoke with Joseph's House. We did that work on the 23rd. And we came up empty handed. I did reach out to, Red,
Oh, Redbird.
Redbird.
Me too, yeah.
Monica was gonna get me a list of, she was gonna search, and get me a list if they had anything. I have not heard from them. So I'm assuming that they don't have anything.
Mr. Mayor, what about neighboring cities? Cohoes, Waterloo, Albany counties?
Well, they're in
Maybe they
Albany
could-
County now.
Well, I'm just saying, maybe they have a different place that would be more suitable to these people that are inconvenienced, and maybe they could go out and sign up for the funding and fees that it takes to support these people properly. This landlord holds a lot of responsibility for this, and
Yeah.
the shabby work that he put out after he was notified certainly shows that he's not in a caring mode. He's either not caring or he's broke. I can't figure it out. If he's not broke, he should be fixing his building for these people properly. So I just think that we can move faster, be better at what we do. And I know that it's tough because laws limit us to what our abilities are with people. And I understand that you guys are suffering, but really laws protect that gentleman who's got that building up there, the same as it protects you who rent from this gentleman. And that's frustrating, but it is law. But we certainly, as human beings, can do better to maybe put some pressure on him and work a little harder to find some spots for these people, especially the individuals that have medical needs and are living on disability and need to, to have some sort of comfort here out of this. And I'm hoping that if there's anything I can do, I would certainly help. And anything we can do here at the council, I know we're all in it, but please, whatever we can do, let's step it up. Let's get this guy moving. in the right
We've been
direction.
calling around to everybody we know. If you know people, call around, landlords. Anything like, it could pop, something could happen. If we could take 3 or 4 here, 3 or 4 here.
Well, the frustrating part, they have to be furnished because all the furniture is in the building, so they have to
Exactly.
be furnished. That's why I thought maybe the colleges where all the kids go, we might have spots that these people could land, even if it was like a sorority house or something where they can land for a month or two. Maybe them 4 or 5 men to share a house somewhere, at least better than sitting in a motel room with a bag of ramen and a bag of
Yeah,
fries.
that was the problem with the housing, authority, is that those units are on
unfurnished. Yeah, I don't, we could probably come up with a couple of minutes there. But again, we have to figure out how to get furnished. And air conditioning, yeah.
All right,
All right,
Well,
thank you very much.
thank you, Mayor.
Sure.
Thank you. All right.
Let me just say, it's Joint Code of Ordinance, chapter 141, section
You can
18.
get back to it.
City.
Yes, please give me the answer.
I'll send you an email
Okay,
with the statutes.
thank you.
The same way we pay for the architectural, and there's a new law that was enacted last year that provides the city to bring, to pay through the repairs,
Yeah.
and the tenants put the rent into escrow, and that money is used by.
Eric,
Oh, Eric. Bob,
And then we.
we'll take that information, people. Right now, we're gonna run our meeting, finish our meeting, we'll come back and talk.
Thank you. I will now take a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? Second, thank you. All in favor? Opposed?